good evening, good afternoon to wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to Diversity with Diana podcast series, where we discuss about inclusive diversity and tech investment in Africa. My name is Diana Sifuna. I am a former CEO of Youth Agenda, which is a national civil society organization that advocates for youth inclusion. I am a former head of marketing in a private firm, a real estate company that majors in luxury real estate in Kenya, and as well as a former production manager cum general manager in a media production company that was based here in Nairobi, Kenya, and in Lagos, Nigeria. That just gives you a bit of a summary of how what I have done professionally for me to be discussing with you about diversity and inclusion so passionately as I do. Academically, I have completed a master's in public policy and management from Strathmore University. I have a Chartered Institute of Marketing postgraduate diploma from CIM UK. And actually, my marketing started from KU. So I have a BCom, which I majored in marketing from from Kenyatta University. And BCom is just Bachelor of Commerce. I did a bit of, I did a bit of a project management professional. I got my certificate from it. And which is the other thing I'm actually forgetting? Because, those things, I have done so many courses, and I think I just love the concept of getting knowledge and getting all the information that is out there. So you can check out my LinkedIn profile for that. But I just wanted to say that I do feel strongly passionate about diversity and inclusion in all the work I have done, be it in media, be it in real estate, be it in civil society and advocacy, which is what I'm doing now, just using my voice to empower the society and to bring information to every single person so that when it comes to them making decisions, then they're making decisions that are well informed. So diversity and inclusion. This week, we're continuing with our series that was started last week. Today is the 12th of June, 2020. And I had promised that we're going to discuss about police brutality in Kenya. We spoke about the, rest in peace, Eric Ng'ethe. We spoke about baby Samantha Pendo. We spoke about, there's Eric Ng'ethe, Samantha Pendo, and Yasin Moyo. All these three, among many others, are people who have lost their lives to people who are supposed to serve and protect them. So why does this happen? We say today we're going to name the people who actually passed away. But before we do that, we want to understand, why is it that the police service that are meant to serve and protect the Kenyans are actually brutalizing and committing acts of violence against the public that they are so meant to protect? I had a discussion with a prosecutor who talked to me at great length because I wanted to find out, what is it internally that makes a police officer want to end a life, to be so violent, so humiliating. Just like the recent case that happened this week, where a woman was dragged for 200 meters while being bound on a motorcycle for claims of having committed the act of theft. What has happened to the public officer, to the police officer who is supposed to bring this suspect to account by presenting them to the judiciary, to the courts, for them to determine the fate of this person? Why would they decide to bound her hands and drag her along for 200 meters on a motorcycle? How inhumane is that act? So I had said we will discuss it later, but I think I had already listed down a number of names of people that we are going to acknowledge and remember them and think deeply about them. Think of their gender, think of their age, think of their families. Think of who they were in life by the time their lives were ended untimely in the hands of the police. Jacob Odhiambo is still alive, but he's too traumatized to report the case of police brutality that happened to him in Kisumu County. I got this information from a human rights activist in Kisumu who made a statement to the Star newspaper in Kenya on behalf of Jacob Odhiambo, who is too traumatized and hasn't even brought this issue to the police themselves. Because then where do you go to? I want to accuse you of beating or brutalizing me past the curfew hours, I want to talk about Samuel Maina too, and Samuel Maina is still alive, thank God, who is 40 years old, a father, a grown man who was brutalized. And actually, when you see his photo online, he's wearing not even a mask. He has some protection on his face. The doctors have put a casque on his face. I think it's coming here and here and here, because he was beaten up by the cops for not wearing a face mask. For crying out loud. That is inhumane. So those two are survivors, but you can imagine how a 40-year-old father who was beaten for not wearing a face mask, now walking around with a mask on his face because of the brutality that happened to him. And the poor traumatized young man, 34 years old, Jack Odhiambo from Kisumu County. Now, Yasin Moyo, 13 years old, I mentioned him in my last podcast, didn't make it. He had a bullet in his stomach and he died at 3 a.m. hours later after being shot. We have Calvin's Omondi, 26 years old, border rider who earns a living by taking people to different destinations. And he was coming back home after dropping a client off and was shot and killed by the cops. I think of Eric Ngede, the 23-year-old accountant in Diani. I think that was the saddest. Because I think he worked in one of these pubs where the cops did a raid and they came in through tear gases, and whoever they found, they beat him to death. His body was discovered the next day by his family in the morgue. 23 years old, accountant. Where is the humanity, police? Where is the humanity? I think of the 2-year-old who was tear gassed at her home here in Nairobi. And collectively, there's about 87 complaints that have been brought forward against the police in Kenya. 87 complaints, out of which 15 people who have been killed by the cops, and they have that case still going on in the courts. 31 others have been injured. Those cases are still in courts. And you can imagine how many more are going unreported just because people don't have the guts or the courage to step up. But I want to remind you guys about the power of social media, the power of using your voice. I want to shout out to activists like Boniface Mwangi who don't stand for bullshit. We saw how they convened together, they mobilized, and Mwalimu Kiema got out of jail. We saw people joining arms, joining forces. We saw Martha Karua join the team of lawyers that got out Mwalimu Kiema. The hashtag was Free Kiama, and we were very happy to be a part of it. We actually saw him get out because the cause of justice does not come through intimidation. So guys, let's keep talking about this. I think I want to do a live Twitter discussion today from 6 o'clock, that is 6 p.m. this evening, where we're going to be discussing these issues. We have already published a blog post where we propose to the police service what we think they need to change. But having a discussion with a prosecutor who works in one of the courts in Kenya, I remember her, we had a very lengthy discussion, and the question that I posed to her was, what can be done to the police service to change what they're currently doing to brutalize us as humans, as children, as youths, as mothers, as fathers, as grandmothers? What can be done to change that? And I think she reminded me about the training that happens at Kiganjo. So the training that happens for all the police service at Kiganjo is probably a 6-month training period. I cannot be quoted on this as being factual, but this is information that I received, and I'm happy to receive more information from the public. And that training, I think, in as much as it focuses on the physical attributes and the capacity to be able to deliver public service of protection and service, I think it needs to incorporate in it communication skills that help them to communicate well with the public. We need to help the police understand the concept of human dignity. The human dignity, and also to just have them motivated. It's a problem where, are they treated with dignity themselves? Are they accorded the best treatment for any person in the public service? Yes, when you're a public servant or a public service officer, then you actually do it because you want to serve the country. But how are you treated in the system? Beyond the training period of the 6 months, which is very vigorous and very intense and very physical, beyond that, what kind of training do you get after that? What kind of compensation do you get after that? What are the career prospects that you have? These are some of the things that I think we need to consciously propose towards the police service, towards the police reforms that will be made in Kenya. When you look at police constables that are still 40, that are 40-year-olds and they're still at the entry level in the police service, how does that motivate a 20, 25-year-old young man wanting to join the police service? How much time will they spend at Kiganjo in training? How long will they take to rise through the ranks? We have to remember that as human beings, there is the concept of motivation that inspires you to do service. Whether you're in the public sector, in the private sector, or the civil society, there is something that innately motivates you to want to do what you need to do. So the reforms that need to be done need to be an ongoing reform process. So this is not just like a 6-month gig, or where you get a consultant for 6 months and then that's the end of it. So we completely shun police brutality. We're asking for police humanity. We're requesting for police humanity. And if we have to, we will beg for police humanity to happen in Kenya and maybe in the rest of the world. But we are now talking about Kenya, where we are. We would love to join the global movements that are fighting against police brutality. But let us start here from home. What are we proposing that we see as a change so that the police can treat us better and we can respect them and we can coexist? And those of us in conflict with the law can rightfully and dignifiedly, in a dignified manner, be taken to account by being presented to court where they stand at trial, and then get a judgment on whether they're guilty or not guilty. But police brutality in Kenya has to end. So guys, leave your comments. We haven't made massive recommendations in this session, but we're going to do it in our last session next week, where we will be having now one of the consultants who actually worked with the police service during the reforms to get out the exact precise recommendations that we can make. And we would be happy to pass this on to any civil society organization, any organized group, to present this as a collective voice among us as Kenyans, so that we can see the change that we wish to see in our society. I mean, it is very pointless to keep talking about this, tweeting about this, and nothing actually happens. Although I must agree that the hashtag Free Kiyama did wonders, and we are happy to see that our activist is out here, and if there is truly a case against him, he can defend himself in court using due process. So thank you very much, and thank you to the public prosecutor who spoke to me. We hope to be engaging more, and we want to be the change. We have to be the change that we want to see in our society. So I call upon you guys to please join the discussion. Do not think your voice is too small. Silence right now is actually a luxury. It must not be entertained. Let us come together, let us make noise, and let us submit the proposals that we need to see in the public institutions that need to serve us. So thank you very much for trusting to listen to me this whole time. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's keep the conversations going. Let us not stop. The time is now or never. Thank you very much.